Okay guys, happy Christmas. Happy blooming Christmas. I hate Christmas, as if you didn't know. The Grinch #1. Yes, but it's all too commercial for me now. Far too commercial. It lost its appeal for me when I was about 7, when I caught me dad actually tripping up a bit of carpet in my bedroom on Christmas Eve. And then it sort of went all nice again when our Richard was born, and for like the first 6 or 7 years of our Richard's life, Christmas was nice, yes. But then, of course, we grew up into a youth, yes, and Christmas just went back to being miserable again. Yeah, he's a good lad now, because he's not a youth anymore. So, dear God. So, I just want to continue from the previous video where I was talking about partial metering and the benefits of partial metering under certain circumstances. And we've got a set of circumstances with this couple of shots we've got access to here. This is a moorhen, and this is a black-headed gull, and really and truly they are both shot. I mean, the two images are shot, you know, within minutes of each other, and the lighting was horrible, just really super high contrast bright sunlight, but both shot with partial metering, as you can see up here. 0 EV, 2000th of a second, 2500th of a second, f8 ISO 640, partial metering. That'll be a manual exposure auto ISO. And this one over here, 0 EV comp partial metering, 2000th of a second, f8 ISO 3200. Yeah, now you'll notice that we've got a dark subject against a very, very, very light background, and in this shot we've got a light subject against a very, very dark background. Now, as I said to you before, and what you need to sort of get your head around is that we can't do partial metering on Nikon. At least, well, I don't know, I can't remember if we can do it on the D5, D500 and D850. I can't remember. But Canons, you can. And it's more useful than centre weighted, because centre weighted still takes notice of a certain amount of the background. Now, if the background is dark, it wants to, and it forms the biggest percentage of the frame, then all this tone round here, you know, 70% or more of this entire frame, or this entire metering area, is actually darker than the bird, and it's darker than a mid-tone. And all the camera's going to do is see this background, and it's going to want to expose the background, not here, but here. So if any of this dark background in this shot, or this light background, come on, this light background in this shot, are allowed to influence the meter's exposure calculations in any way, then our backgrounds will be in the wrong place. And more importantly, our subjects are going to be in the wrong place on the exposure histogram. Bear in mind, this isn't an exposure histogram, this is Lightroom's histogram of this image, how Lightroom's processed it, just automatically in the background. So if I look at this shot to begin with, we can see that it's massively contrasty. Now, there's two reasons for the contrast: really super bright high contrast lighting, and of course Lightroom's crappy excess contrast import settings. And so all I'm going to do is a straightforward process version swap, and suddenly everything's sort of calmed down. And I think what I'll do is I'll go through the process version swap again for people who don't understand it. So there we are, this is import, we go to calibration, switch from version 5 down to version 2, go over to presets, classic general, zeroed. And straight away you can see all this detail that's come in this bird, which really and truly wasn't there before. It all looked like blown highlight. So we're now going to switch back to process version 5. We'll go to lens corrections, remove chromatic aberration, detail, and all we're going to do for the moment is just put the colour noise back to its default, or colour noise removal back to its default. If we come into the tone curve, we can see we've got this process version swap inverted subtle S-shaped curve, which happens automatically when you do it. And if we come to the basics panel, you can see that it's automatically taken one stop of exposure out, -33 contrast, and it's up the blacks by 25. And that's all that happens, right? You'll also notice it's changed the profile of the image from Adobe Color to Adobe Standard, and I used to advise people to switch that out to camera neutral, but now you can see it's imposed a lot more contrast in the image, so I actually now 9 times out of 10 leave it in Adobe Standard. Adobe have been doing a bit of tinkering with Lightroom. So yes, so what we're going to do to this image, it doesn't really want a lot doing to it, because if you consider what it looked like before, yeah, holy crap, that looks terrible, this looks awesome, but it is a little bit on the low contrast side. But the thing is, look at all this detail that's been recorded in the breast feathers of this black-headed gull. Now this black-headed gull is, to all intents and purposes, this part of it is relatively white, yes, so you don't expect to see a lot of detail. But the reality of it is, this bird looks more realistic in this shot than it does in this. But what we're going to do is just make it look a little bit more realistic, and just emphasize and just build it up, make it look a little bit better. So how am I going to do that? First off, I'm going to warm it up just a little bit on the old colour temperature, because he's looking a little bit blue in the grey areas. He isn't anymore. And I'm going to turn up the vibrance to 30, and I'm going to turn the saturation up to about 16, sort of half as much saturation as we've got vibrance. I might go and add a little bit of clarity, but then the image is still looking a little bit on the dark side. I'm not going to add exposure or even put the exposure back to 0. All I'm going to do is take the dehaze slider down to about -17, -18, and it's just made the image look a little bit more subtle, and the lighting does not look as harsh. Now at the end of the day, I still think that is perfectly acceptable. We'll go down to the details panel, and can we see any noise in these out of focus background areas? We wouldn't expect to see very much because it's ISO 640, but we might just put 6 or 7 points in there, and we might come and just put the default amount of sharpening back on, and then just hold the Alt key down and just move the masking slider a little bit to the right, 8, 9, that's plenty. And look at that, that's nice and smooth. We go to a before and after view. Here's the noise how we've got it now. There's the noise how it was before we did our little tiny bit of processing. So let's come back to our normal view, and the other thing I want to do is just increase the saturation of the colours a little bit. So I'm going to come out to fit to screen view, and then I'm going to go to the HSL panel, and I might actually want to lift the luminance and the saturation of both legs and this reddish orange part of the beak as well. So I'm going to start with luminance, so we'll go into the HSL panel, luminance, and I will lift up the luminance of orange, and you can see his beak getting a bit brighter and his legs getting brighter. Okay, so we'll leave that there about 48. But what we need to do, because it's not pure orange, we just need to lift the luminance of the red and the yellow channel just a little bit, just to stop any potential for sort of luminance banding in the colours, because it's not a flat colour. Yeah, so there is orange, this is orange, but there's red in there, and there's also yellow. So we just need to give a gentle adjustment. And then we're going to come into the saturation, and we're just going to lift the saturation of the orange, and again a little bit of red and a little bit of increase in the yellow as well. And I think he's looking okie dokie. And we go to a before and after view. Yep. Check everything. Yeah, I think that's looking really good. We might come back to the basics panel now and just come into the exposure slider and start to lift it just a little bit until I like the look of the head, which will be about there. But now we're just starting to get a little bit overly bright. If you check out the histogram here, I'm going to put it in lab values, so we'll show lab color values. Now pure white would be L100. Right, now you can see that we're at L97, L98, so it's very close to white. Now if we were to print this image, not that we would, because it's a fairly crappy image, but I'm liking it other than the actual breast of the bird. And if you remember, we did have more detail in there. So all I'm going to do is I'm not going to do anything fancy, no fancy masking. We're not going to go anywhere near Photoshop. We're not going to use any luminosity masks. For God's sake, this is a bog standard stock image. It needs to be into processing and out of processing and uploaded onto a stock site ready to earn money with the shortest amount of effort, or the smallest amount of effort put into its preparation. So all we're going to do is go and get a radial graduated filter, and I'm just going to move it around, and bearing in mind that 100% of the effect of the filter is, I'm going to make this an internal filter by hitting the invert button. So the effects of this filter are going to be maximized in its center, and when we get to that outer edge there, as delineated by the oval, they will drop to 0. And we did just get a quick view of the actual mask itself. So what we're going to do is just increase the clarity a little bit and decrease the exposure a little bit. That's a little bit much. I'm going to go for minus 0.45 on there, and clarity we're going to bring down to about plus 20, and that should be just about right if we go ahead and click done on there. And yeah, we've just brought back a little bit of this detail in here, and I think he looks quite good, especially when you compare what it used to look like on import. That's rubbish. This is fine. This is what the gull looks like in real life. Okay, right, so let's move on to the next image. So we've just dealt with a bright subject against a dark background and understood that evaluative or matrix, if you're on the other brand, yeah, if we're on Nikon matrix, or if we're on Canon, it will be evaluative. Evaluative metering is going to cause us some problems here. So I'm just going to come out to a standard view, and I'll tab my panels back, and you can see we partially metered again. So the meter is just taking note of the black values, because believe you me, these moorhen look very black, especially when they're against a very bright background. And so the meter has done its job. It's exposed these as a mid-tone, and it looks very, very good. Okay, but as you can see, we've got clipped highlights. We'll turn the J key on, and so you can see where we've got all these clipped highlights. We've got clipped highlights in the comb and the beak as well, because this is the problem with moorhens. The comb and the beak is white. Yes. So I'm just going to do a process version swap, and there we go. Now we've just got, I mean, look at this beak, look at the separation we've got, and that's a Canon 1DX Mark II. And don't forget, you can't record totally uncompressed raw files on a Canon. I do wish they would actually allow you to do that. That's the one benefit of shooting on Nikon, because you can have raw files with zero compression on them. These are all lossless compressed, and lossless compressed isn't lossless. Sorry Canon, I beg to disagree with you, and I know more about what I'm talking about than half of the guys who work at Canon. That's a bit big-headed of me, isn't it? Yeah, but I've been around longer than some of the guys who work at Canon. But anyway, I always try and get people to steer clear of doing this with the highlight and shadow adjustment, or highlight and shadow recovery, because moving the highlight slider to the left and the shadows to the right, anybody who's bought my sharpening video training will be painfully aware of the problems that this can cause, because this sort of movement with the highlight and shadow areas can actually cause quite a bit of edge haloing, which nobody wants. But either slider, to a degree, has got its uses. Shadow recovery has got its uses. Highlight, you can't recover blown highlights. You just can't. However, these are not blown. They are just outside Lightroom's ability to render. So if I just move the highlight recovery slider down to there, and now you can see that we've got good definition of the entire comb and beak area of this bird against this bright white background. Again, it'll never win Wildlife Photographer of the Year. It's a crap composition, and it's just a crap scene, because we don't really want this. But I shot these as test images, and so they are serving their purpose. So we've just put a -40 highlight recovery. It doesn't even really need to be that much. We can dial this back. I think we can go, yes, it's just starting to come back in at -30. So we take it up to 100%, and let's just pop it down again. There we go, -32. I knew -40 was too much. Yes, thank you, -32. So, you know, I mean, that looks pretty nigh on perfect, doesn't it? So if we go into the details panel, just put a couple of points of noise reduction in, maybe 8 and 9, 10, it'll be fine. We've got loads of sharp revealing detail on this bird, the feathers on the bird. We've got all the lovely fibrous detail there. You couldn't really wish for a better photograph of a moorhen. I was going to call it by its traditional Old English name then, but I hadn't better do that. Some of you will know what that is, and you'll also know why I haven't said it. Anyway, what else are we going to do to the image? I can't think now, my brain's gone dead. If we come back to the basics panel, I might add a little bit of clarity to it, just to bring in this foreground, and just add a little bit more detail there, which it has done. And might we want to take the dehaze down? We might do, but you see, we've not changed the exposure. Just take the exposure down just a little bit more, and I think that looks fine. We could actually take the value of the whites down as well, -5, and it just gives an extra little bit of variation up there. But anyway, that's just 2 further examples of the benefits of using partial metering on Canon as opposed to evaluative. Because if we'd used evaluative on this scene, the evaluative metering would have been very heavily influenced by this much brighter foreground and background, and those whites in there and those much lighter tones would actually have forced the exposure to be more down here in the centre of the towards the centre of the histogram. So of course these highlights wouldn't be exposed as highlights, they'd be exposed as midtones or maybe perhaps upper midtones. But the only thing is, yeah, we are not using variable resistance technology sensors because they are not with us yet in any shape of, or in any form of commercial obtainability anyway. And so what would have happened if these were to drag the exposure down, then the moorhen itself and all the detail would have been underexposed and would have come out much darker, and then we would have been having to use a boatload of shadow recovery to try and tease the blacks out. So again, partial metering, exposing to the right as much as you can, keeping things under control. If I hear one more person say, I don't process my images, I just shoot JPEGs, I believe in getting it right in the camera. You can't get it right in the bloody camera. It is impossible. And that's not a digital thing. For Christ's sake, Ansel Adams never got it right in camera, because film used to, and digital sensors do nowadays, see the world in a much different way than these two stupid things you've got in the front of your face. So just remember, anybody who says, oh, I get it right in camera, I don't process, they're just talking out of their backside, and all the camera's doing is applying some instant gratification picture settings to their raw files that they have no control over. Yes, nearly as irritating as, hey up mate, what camera settings are you using? Yeah, another pet peeve of mine. Anyway, there we go. So that's my Boxing Day video. I've done that because I'm bored, and of course I've also done it because I want to give you some little useful tips and tricks, and because some of you might be off work until January the 2nd, January the 3rd, so you might be trying to seize every opportunity you can in between now and New Year to get out with your cameras and do something. So there you go. If you're on a Canon, try switching into partial metering if it's sunny, or if you've got a big difference between the light of your subject and the light of your background. So remember, very dark subject, very light background, or very light subject, very dark background. If you're trying to isolate your subject against the background, just try partial metering instead, and that will help you keep your exposures a little bit further over to the right, which is always a good thing. Yes. Okay guys, happy Christmas, and if I don't speak to you before or see you before, have a good New Year, don't get too drunk, and I shall see you on the other side of New Year. And all I'll be doing is watching the fireworks on the telly. Yes. Okay. Tooroo.